welcome to R Squared Technology. My name is Ryan and I will be your guide for learning SOLIDWORKS. And in this video we will be kicking off an unofficial tutorial series from the Beginner's Guide to SOLIDWORKS 2022 Level 1 by SDC Publications. And just as a quick side note, I'm not endorsed nor sponsored by the publication or the author. However, I will leave a link in the description if you'd like to pick up a copy of this book to follow along. We'll begin, of course, in Chapter 1, which is going to be an introduction to the layout of SOLIDWORKS and its interface. And then at the end of this video, we will make a template which we're going to carry over into Chapter 2 when we actually start modeling parts. Now don't freak out, keep your cool, because in Chapter 2 when we start modeling, you're going to notice that everything is going to build upon itself and that there are many things that will repeat themselves, so you're familiar with those commands. However, if you do have any questions, feel free to drop a comment below and I will do my best to answer it for you. So with that, fasten your seatbelt and let's jump into Chapter 1. You'll have your seatbelt fastened? Good, because we are now going to dive into the interface that is SOLIDWORKS in all its glory. Whoa! Okay, so here's something to keep in mind. The very first time, and only the first time, unless you've got some weird situation going on that I'm not aware of, nor standard operating procedures aware of, you will get a prompt for units and dimensions standards. From here you will be, of course, selecting the units and the dimensional standards from which you want to work with. For me, I chose inch, pound, second because I'm in America, and ANSI dimensional standards for now. And then I've clicked OK. And once you do that, that prompt will never longer appear when you open up SOLIDWORKS. But don't worry, these settings can be changed at any point, and I will later show you many different ways in which you can do that. Okay, after you've made your units and dimensions standard selection and press OK, SOLIDWORKS will load and bring you to this beautiful screen here. Now what I want you to do is focus your attention into the top left corner here where you see the little red SOLIDWORKS logo, and you'll see a tiny little right arrow. Hover over it and you get File, View, Tools, and this little pin icon. Click the pin icon to lock that in place from hiding. This is a nice feature to have in place so that every time you open up SOLIDWORKS you can instantly get to File to create a new part. So now I'm keeping along with the book somewhat. Keep in mind that my parts are not going to be quite the same as this introduction chapter. With that being said though, we're going to go File, and I'm just going to choose an existing part to show you the layout. Then we'll go in reverse to create a new part document in order to make our template. With that being said, here we have a solid part document. And let's begin the layout of the land, so to speak. So up here along the top we have the menu bar, and there's that awesome little pin that we have which stays there. Now granted, obviously the amount of options within the menu bar is going to change based on whether you're in a part document, an assembly file document, or a drawing document. But this very top bar stays with you in all three. Now below, the toolbars are going to be slightly different depending on whether you're in a part document, an assembly document, or a drawing document. But for this one, you're going to notice something, that there's also tabs below the toolbar. That's because there's going to be, so to speak, multiple toolboxes and or tabs within this. So your default might look slightly different than this tab arrangement I have here. But at minimum, you should have a Features tab, a Sketch tab, and the Evaluate tab. The essentials for Chapter 2 are most definitely going to be a sketch and features. I'll definitely let you know if you need to load up other tabs, and I will show you how to do that. But for now, let's keep it simple. So below that, we have our feature manager, which contains the feature tree tab you see here, which should be the default selection tab. Then you have a properties manager tab, and look, if you hover over things, you can see what they're going to be. You have a configuration manager tab, then you have a dimension expert manager tab, and a display manager tab. But for now, what we're going to worry about is the feature tree tab and the properties tab. So as you can see, because we have a part loaded up, there are already a bunch of features. Now this is simple part, so all it has is a bunch of boss extrudes and a couple of reference planes added in, but there's not too much going on in this particular part versus what you would see on page 4 of the book. It's okay. For now, again, keeping it simple, don't need to get overwhelmed with things. The next thing I want to show you, which is going to vary slightly on my open part document here versus page 5, is the properties manager. So again, there is a tab for properties. However, we're going to stay in the feature tree tab, and then I'm simply going to choose a boss extrude feature, and I'm going to go into edit, which is going to open the property manager. Now it's going to look a lot more simplified here than the image available on page 5 in the book, and that's okay. You're going to notice that this property manager is going to have quite a few different variations and options depending on what you are doing. And fear not, as we go through and as we progress and build upon things, you're going to notice the differences, and we'll go over them in greater detail at that point. But for now, just learning the layout in its basic. And again, everything is going to have a certain repetition to it, so you don't have to necessarily try to memorize everything right now. So we'll close out of that, and now I want to show you where your part is in the graphics area. Is what we're going to consider this, and what it's called, however you want to call it, viewport. Though arguably a viewport is something that's within a two-dimensional drawing, so we'll strike that statement. But this is the graphics area. Then above it we have the view toolbar, which has a number of different little options to choose from. For now I'm going to keep it simple, and I'm not going to show you those yet. As we progress in future videos, we will certainly make use of these. And then over here on the right side is our task pane icons. For now, I'm not going to go into details about those because we really don't need to implement those right now. But what I want to do is cover some navigation of a part that you have open. So with the mouse, we're going to start with the scroll wheel. As long as my mouse is in the graphics area, if I scroll forwards or backwards, in and out so to speak, it's going to zoom in and out on the part. Now it is not a uniform zoom in and out, because depending on where my mouse is on the graphics area, you can see it's going to change where it zooms in. Arguably it's going to focus where the mouse is pointed, so it's going to zoom in. Consider your mouse the reticle, so to speak, and so you're zooming in based on where the mouse is pointing. The next thing is the scroll wheel, when you press down on it, is going to allow you to manipulate and rotate and flip the part infinitely with as much precision and small amount as you wish. We can use a combination of scrolling in and out to zoom in, and then we can press and hold the center scroll wheel again to manipulate it. But another more precise navigation, if you will, depending, is going to be the lovely space bar, which brings up this orientation cube and this orientation prompt. So your classic and typical views are going to be either a top, a front, or a right side view. Now, there is also a left, a bottom, a back view as well. Again, it's not like you can't use those, but more often than not, you can achieve most of what you need to from just those three views. Another thing is with, say, the front view. We are now looking at this part and it looks very two-dimensional and compressed. So another thing we can do is, again, press the space bar, and we can go up here and choose an isometric view just so we can get an idea of what's going on here in a three-dimensional space, so to speak. And another thing to consider too is over here in our feature tree, you're going to notice that by default you should always have a front, top, and right plane and origin. Everything below the origin are going to be features and or sketches, items that you create. So with that being said, what we can also consider is you can select the front plane and you can press and hold Control, and then you can hit 8, and that's called bringing it normal to, or just normal to. Same thing, select the top plane, Control 8, that brings it normal to. Notice how it's doing the same thing as if I went and hit front or top. Now you'll notice another thing, SOLIDWORKS is kind of almost very useful in how it kind of gives you hints here and there as to what's going on. It does a lot of, takes guesswork out of it if you're kind of getting confused to what's going on. For example, if I hit the space bar again, you'll notice when I hover over the top plane or top view, you can also hit, you can see here, it says Control 5. So if I escape out, and I'll put this back in an isometric view, if I hit Control 5, we've now gone to a top view. Control 4 goes to, I believe it's the right view. And then Control 1 brings the front view. And at any given point, if we're in some three-dimensional view, I can even select a face of a part and press Control 8 to bring that part normal to our view. So there's a number of different ways to navigate planes and views for a given part. So you're just going to have to, in a sense, find what works for you. Me personally, I love the space bar and using these, or my favorite is Control 8 for normal to. Normal to is going to be something I go to a lot to snap things into proper view so that I get the proper orientation and know what's going on. And with that, that's going to be, again, this is just a basic introductory overview of the layout. And as we go into Chapter 2 and begin modeling a part, we're going to go through all these things over and over. You're going to notice that things are going to build upon each other and be repetitive. So you'll definitely get your practice in working with these things. And in no time, you'll be doing just fine. So now we're going to close out of this, and we are going to begin a new template, which we're going to then save into a new folder of our own templates and add to be able to use this in Chapter 2. Okay, so now let's create the document template. There are a couple of different ways to navigate to creating a new part file to do this. My personal preference is File New, which will get us there. You can also go off the book, which they choose the little full file icon here for New. Or you can use the little drop down arrow on New. Pick your poison. Either which way, make sure you arrive at this prompt to be able to select the part. Then click OK. So that's page 13. And now we're going to move to page 14. The next thing we're going to want to do is go up here to the very top menu bar you're going to see a little gear icon, which is options. Click that, and then we're going to click the Document Properties tab. And then under the Overall Drafting Standard, we're going to want to make sure that ANSI is selected. Then the next thing we'll do is click on Units and make sure that IPS, inch pound second, is selected. Again, if one of these other ones is selected, it's okay. Just make sure you select inch pound second. Then down here in the table, under to the right of length of inches, click in and choose 3 decimal places for the tolerance. And then click OK. Then the next thing we're going to do is over here in the Feature Manager, and under the feature tree we have the material. Then we're going to right click on that, and we're going to choose from the popular list Cast Alloy Steel. And that is going to all be within page 15. Now, if you go to page 16, the next thing that we're going to do is create our own reference folder. This is a Windows Explorer option, so navigate to My Folder, Desktop, wherever you want to put this. Just remember where you put it so you can navigate to this. So then we'll make a new folder, title it. I would recommend titling it what the book has it, which is my SW template. And then accept that, and then we'll go back into SOLIDWORKS. And then we're still on page 16 here. So now we're going to go back up to our options, the little gear icon. And then make sure you're under the System Options tab. And then you're going to go down to File Locations and click on that. Now make sure that Document Templates is selected. And whatever you do, do not click on this and hit delete. Stay away from the delete button. And for this, let's make sure that nothing is selected right now. We're then going to click the Add button, and then we're going to find that folder we created. And then we're going to select the folder, and there it is. And then we will select it and hit OK. And this is say, would you like to make the following changes to your search path, and hit yes. Now my computer has a firewall in place, so I have to hit yes for this, and yes for this. And then just like that, now the folder is selected where as far as its path. So now that's on page 17. So still on page 17, we're going to choose File. We're going to do Save As. And interesting enough, it is still selected on the C drive. So we're going to go and find that folder, My SOLIDWORKS template. And then down here, we're going to choose a part template. And then we're going to, now on page 18, we're going to name it ANSI Inch Cast Alloy Steel. So ANSI Inch and hit save. And now we're going to close out of this part document, and then we're going to choose File, New, and click on Advance, and there it is. And that is going to conclude this video. Join me next Friday for the beginning of Chapter 2, where we will start modeling a part. Thank you so much for watching. Enjoy your evening.